What's going on, guys? So this is my first and ever podcast. So stay tuned. We got a lot to talk about. Hey, what's going on, people? This is Alan Michael or Michael Allen, whichever you prefer. I say that in real life also. So, and people are often confused, like, what's your first name? Is it Alan or Michael? I'm like, I have two first names. So, first of all, thank you so much for listening. This is, again, my first podcast ever, so it's going to be raw, unfiltered, pretty much. It's not a whole lot of editing. It's just something that I just wanted to put together. This is Ventures podcast. So Ventures is something that I kind of thought of myself. Ventures. Think about an adventure, and people just going through the motions in their day-to-day lives. And each day is an adventure. So, to me personally, I am, a born again Christian. I gave my life to Christ when I was 23 years old. So there was a lot that happened before then. I won't get too much into that until further podcast, but there is a lot of things I want to cover. So let's get to it. So the first thing I wanted to cover was the simple fact that there's a lot of differences in emotions. I talk about emotions quite often with people in my real life. So there's just a difference. So emotions, here's a definition. So emotion is something that you feel. It is like a feeling that it could be a gut feeling, it could be a heart feeling, and it could be a mind. It's definitely a mind thing. So it's all coming from your mind. What you feel is coming from your mind or your heart. So it all kind of sounds, I guess, weird. Because you're just like, well, how do you do this? Like, well, take it like this. This is just a simple story. As my mom would tell me, you put your hand on the stove, you get burned. Obviously, you feel that pain, which is an emotion, or it's a response. It's a triggered response. So in this podcast, I want to just talk a little bit about emotions. What triggers your emotions? What is the biggest thing that's happened to you in your day-to-day life that triggered the emotions that you feel? So, in a sense, emotions, again, are something that is felt. So, like, something could have happened to you today or yesterday, or it could happen soon, whatever the case may be. And that emotion that you feel is often, you're just like, man, I wonder what's going to happen, or why is this happening to me, or what can I do to fix this? We often want to fix these things. So, and in reality, there are some things that we can fix, and there are some things that we can't. And it's just a lot of things we don't have control over. The hardest part about feeling these emotions is sometimes they're controllable and sometimes they're uncontrollable. I'll kind of go into detail. So an uncontrolled emotion it could be psychological. It could be something that was just trauma. It's like a trauma response. Like it happens. It just happens at a drop of a hat. So for instance, something may have happened to you in your past life. And it could be like the anniversary of that day, or that memory can just trigger it, and instantly you feel either depressed or anxious, or you just feel an overwhelming amount of pain, from that. Or it could be something that you remember that's like a good memory. Like, It could be the anniversary of a good memory. You're just like, wow, I remember this day. This day was amazing. Like, I remember when I did this, X, Y, and Z. And it's a feeling of joy and happiness. And you're just like, wow, this is amazing. So I would like to think that these emotions are somewhat of a blessing and a curse at times. I often think about like a lot of my friends, they've went through breakups, or they've lost a job, or they got married and they got a raise at their job. Both emotions are different. So the person that lost their job, they could be super depressed or upset. The person that got a raise at their job could be like, wow, this is amazing. They feel like they're on top of the world, right? So what we have to, I think there's something that I like to put into play here. We have to learn how to acknowledge these emotions. Now, I say that to not, I guess, how can I say this? I say this not to put, pressure on you. Like, I don't want you to feel like, well, do I have to feel this? Like, no, you don't have to, but acknowledge it. Like, acknowledge the way you feel. Like, don't put it off. Like, if you feel a certain way, don't put it off. Like, acknowledge it. Be in that moment. I was taught, or I was told to be in that moment, and also taught, but I was told to be in that moment when I feel a certain kind of way. Like, for instance, if I'm sad or if I'm depressed and I feel that way, I acknowledge it. I acknowledge this is the way I'm feeling right now. I need to soak a little. You need to soak a little bit. You need to just kind of sit and just kind of, mull over the situation a little bit. But after that, acknowledge the fact that this is only temporary and it's not going to last forever. That's the beautiful thing about grace and the grace of God. And I kind of want to, rabbit trailed a little bit, but I'm getting somewhere. Just bear with me. These emotions that you feel, or that you have felt before, a blessing and a curse, right? Like I said earlier, the blessing part of it is that whether you feel this way or not, God still loves you. The people around you that care about you still love you. They love you no matter what. They will love you no matter what. And they should love you no matter what. And they should accept you no matter how you feel and what you're going through. That's the goodness of your friends, friendship, joy, God, peace. It's everything. Everything included in that package. The curse part of it is the simple fact that when you feel these emotions, you're like, how do I get over this? I don't know how to get over this. And you feel helpless. You feel hopeless. And you don't have those friends that build you up and give you a certain amount of build up. They don't give you what's the word for it? They don't give you encouragement. There you go. They don't give you encouragement enough. They don't tell you like, hey, listen, things are going to be okay. You may be going through this right now, but it's only temporary. Just acknowledge that. So when they tell you this though, like, how do you feel after that? Like, how do you feel when someone says, hey, listen, things are going to be okay? Acknowledge the fact that things are going to be okay. Do you feel hopeful, or do you feel like this is just something I've heard before? Either way it goes, it will be okay eventually. We may not see the end of a lot of things. We may not see the light at the end of the tunnel all the time, but guarantee you that the emotions that you feel, whether it's depression, whether it's just anxiety, things like that, the emotions that are talked about most are depression and anxiety in the world today. Everything is talked about, depression and anxiety. Numbers have skyrocketed with depression and anxiety. There's just a lot of things going on, and people are just like, I don't know how else to feel. Why should I feel happy? So I say this also to kind of encourage you a little bit, the listener. You may be going through a tough time, but know that you will come out of it. There's a reason why the emotions that we feel are temporary. The joy that we want to feel is often hard to reach at times. And that's just, I think about that all the time. Like, what is the joy of our life? What should be the joy of our life? And for a lot of people, like dads, moms included, it could be their children, or it could be each other, and it could be the whole entire family. That's the joy that they live for. We could be, I mean, if you're a believer in the room, if you believe in the Lord, the joy of the Lord is your strength. And that's where your joy should come from, which gives you the opportunity to feel the joy that's around you in the world. For instance, your family, your friends, the church that you go to, or if you go to church, or just anything like that. That is an emotion that is often felt very seldomly. And I just believe there needs to be more of it. So again, rabbit trail, again, first podcast. So things that I say may not come together at times, and things that I say just kind of, I just go on a little tangent, but hopefully it makes sense. The emotions that you feel, acknowledge them, but know that it's temporary. Know that you will get through whatever you're going through. There is a light. There is something better for you. There are people that love you, that care for you, that want to see you succeed. That's just it. It's hard to see right now because you may be going through that storm in that valley, but I guarantee you there are people out there that want to help you go through this stage you're going through. This is not the end. This is not the end of this podcast of emotions. I would like to dig a little bit deeper. So, with that being said, this is the first podcast. It's short and sweet, but I hope that you enjoyed a little bit of what I was talking about. Hopefully a lot of it made sense, but if it didn't, I'm so sorry. I will try to explain it better later. But thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. This is Alan Michael, and this is Ventures. God bless.